if you have children, I hope this video ignites a fire in you that pushes you to take action, but also a fire that you'll spread to your children as well. Education is good, but don't let the governments be solely responsible for raising your children. Teach them financial literacy from when they're young. In fact, the Securities Exchange Commission once profiled Zambia's youngest pilot, Kalenga Kamwendo, who stated that because his father saved and invested the right way, he's a pilot today. So if you want your child to be a pilot, or your child to go to Unilas, Zikas, Mulungushi, CBU, Oxford University, Cambridge, but you don't want them to sweat and have student loans and start their adult life in debt, then this video is for you. And if you want to be the rich uncle or rich auntie who takes their nibblings out for vacation to Dubai and the USA or wherever you're granted a visa, then this video is also for you. Many years ago, when you could barely tell if I was a lad or a lass, I stumbled across the stock market. Fast forward to the end of my time in high school, it started to dawn on me that I'd need to work and make money. I hadn't even written my grade 12 exams at the time, but the thought of buying shares was fresh in my mind. I had no idea where they even came from, but looking back, I'd say it's NBC News. When I was young, the 19 hours main news was a big deal in Zambia, and share prices would scroll at the bottom of the screen every single day. So I remember one time I asked the patriarch of our home, "Master, what do those numbers mean?" Fast forward to university, I spent a lot of time developing formulae on how to analyze stocks and assess them, because that financial freedom thought never left my mind. It kept lingering. This was over a decade ago, and I have bought exactly 0 shares since. Actually, when I wrote the script of this video, I had 0 shares, but now I have a tiny, insignificant number of shares in a few companies. I bought when I was testing my Luce mobile app, but the reason I have not dabbled into shares directly is because of today's subject: unit trusts. Unit trusts, sometimes called mutual funds, are a type of investment scheme or vehicle that allow people to pool money together. The trusts are managed by fund managers who are responsible for investing the money.
I invested the money.
All you have to do is create an account and then put money in the fund. So you can even set a standing order from your bank into the fund so that you don't have to sweat it. It's called automatic wealth creation. Now, unit trusts work with compound interest. So assuming you put in 700 kwacha monthly at an average return of 19% yearly for 18 years, I say 18 because your little chkumbuso would be at the age of completing high school, right? And that's the point where money becomes a challenge for most people. So your return at that point is 1,292,383 kwacha. Now, we could adjust for inflation, right? Because a lot of people say, well, 1 million in 18 years time is not going to have the same value that it has today. That's true, but we could also adjust for inflation and say, what if every year you're increasing your 700 by the amount of inflation the country is experiencing? So maybe in the second year you increase it by 12%, 13%, 14%, whatever the number may be. And also, we're not factoring in the fact that your income will not remain the same. 5 years from now, all things being equal, your income should increase, right? So regardless of the value that you get after 18 years, whether you factor in inflation or not, the purchasing power of that value, if we take 700 kwacha at 19% interest as our base, the purchasing power will still be 1,292,383 kwacha. So it's the same thing. It comes down to the same thing regardless, right? So in Zambia we have a number of licensed companies that allow for this. So you pick who you want to invest with. Some of the licensed unit trusts I know of are Mpile, then there's ABC Asset Management, which is my favorite at the moment. There's Longhorn, there's Kukula Capital, there's Lawrence and Paul, there's Hobbiton, which runs Patumba, which is mobile centered, and there's so many others, honestly. Like, you could do your research, you'll find so many, right? So these companies offer different types of unit trusts. It's important to understand what you're buying into. One of the most popular funds across companies is known as the balanced fund, and sometimes they call it a hybrid fund or a mixed asset class fund. There's also another name that they have for it, but it's not coming back to me right now. And so the characteristics of a balanced fund is largely in the name. It's balanced. This fund is one that mitigates risk by being balanced, and basically it combines different asset classes. So you have your stocks and bonds, but you also have your equities and your shares and stuff. So all these form a balanced fund to give you that balance between growth and stability, so you don't have to worry too much about losing capital, because the fund is created to have a balance, so you never lose capital, right? It's basically safe as investments can be. Now, the second type of equity fund or product that these trusts offer is known as, look at me, the second type of fund that the trust offer is known as an equity fund. So this is one where you buy shares indirectly. So you own shares in companies, but indirectly, because technically you're not owning the shares, because the fund owns the shares and you own a part of the fund. So that's kind of how that one works. And it has higher risk, but also higher reward. And aside from that, equity funds in the last 3 or so years have seen incredible amounts of growth. So much so that in the last 1 year, 2025, a lot of equity funds were seeing growth as high as 60%, which is crazy. But you don't directly own stocks. Pardon me, I feel like I have a flu of some sort. So you don't directly own stocks, meaning you never get dividends, but rather the fund manager who gets the dividends and redistributes them into the fund. This is part of the reason why the growth of equity funds is so high, right? So that's how those work, basically. The third type of fund I want to talk about is the money market fund, which is good for short and medium-term investments. So in cases where a bank may only be giving you 6% return, a money market fund will give you between 9 and 13% return, which is great because it's not meant for the money to grow per se. It's just kind of a hedge against inflation in the short term. So money market is good for emergencies. But like I said earlier in the video, I'm trying to focus more on people with children and people who are looking at the long term. So the final fund I want to talk about is one that many companies offer, and it's one that caters to children. So it's like a balanced fund. Some companies call it My Star Fund. Others have different names for it. It's like a balanced fund, but the difference is that your child's birth certificate as well as their photo will be a part of the application. And also when you're signing the documents, you're writing your child as the owner, but you're the custodian. So you have full responsibility. It's not like your child could grow up and come sue you for it. You have full responsibility of the account, but your child's name is there and they're fully a part of it as well. That's kind of how it works. But responsibility is on you and your wife if you want, or your husband if you want. So these funds are really good because they kind of help you plan for things that sometimes can be unforeseen, right? Because nobody knows how tomorrow will be. But if you can start now preparing for that and planning for your kids, it means that even if you were to pass on at whatever point in life, in their lives, of course, you're leaving behind a cushion for them to be able to move forward with. Because why would you want your kids to suffer even if you're dead? So yeah, and that's kind of why, if you have to read any books this year, I recommend the book of Proverbs, which says a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So basically, be the wise man. And then another book I would recommend for the year is The Millionaire Next Door. So those are two books I'd love to recommend to you. And another thing I'd like to urge you to do is do a lot of research, read on your own, find what works for you, and then go for it. Let 2026 be the year that you decided to become wealthy. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a question, please comment down below. Thank you so much for watching, and peace.